Welcome to the 24th floor. I'm Richard Denson alongside Ruben Diaz. The NBA Finals are set. The NBA Draft is right around the corner. And the Memphis Grizzlies sitting pretty at number 3 with the chance to add another cornerstone piece to the roster.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for the last several weeks, and obviously, I'm a big Cam Boozer fan. There's been a lot of people saying Cam's the guy to take, but that might not necessarily be how it plays out, right?
Yeah, because what if he's not available? The noise is getting louder that may be a possibility. So help us sort it all out. We're joined by one of my best friends and one of the sharpest draft minds I know. I mean, if you've got a question about a prospect, chances are he's already watched them play for years. Joining us now on the 24th floor is NBA draft analyst Rish Ghosh. Rish, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure with having this opportunity to discuss this, guys, and really looking forward to how Memphis builds the next era of their franchise.
Rich, I got to ask you, because Rich, this is going to be tough, Rich and Rish, I got to ask you, because Rich is saying that you're the guy who's plugged into all the prospects. So who do you think is the top prospect, regardless of who goes number 1? Who do you feel like is the best overall prospect in the upcoming draft?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a tricky question throughout the year. I've found myself on kind of like essentially like a swing set, kind of going back and forth. But I think I started with Darren Peterson coming into the year. I'm still fairly confident that Darren Peterson is my number 1 prospect. I understand that there's concerns about, how his tenure at Kansas played out with regards to the injuries, the idea that he might be holding out. But I think when you get a shot maker of this caliber that is also exceptional on the defensive side, you can alleviate some of those burdens of defensive responsibility or, the injury concerns and whatnot. And I'm still confident Darren Peterson is, if all goes well in terms of his health, will come out the best player of this draft. But I do think right behind him is Cam Boozer.
I mean, Ruben, you're not a Darren Peterson believer.
And Rich, we'll have this conversation. I'm just not a Darren Peterson. I'm not bought in on the Kool-Aid because I watched him sit too much. And, I've been around college athletics a lot. I've sent a lot of kids to play college athletics. I've talked to tons of college coaches over the years. And just the body language and the unspoken words, the unspoken really sent a negative image, a negative message to me. I just didn't feel like the guy was committed to playing until he knew he had to start playing.
Rish?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair concern. I think especially with the speculation that he was, supposedly holding out at times or asking to be called out based on what we saw on the tape. I think those are reasonable concerns. A lot of the hype behind Darren Peterson and why people are so excited is because when you look at the priors in terms of what he was able to do at prolific prep, and, despite, the injuries, whether he's holding out, whether there's chemistry issues, he was still able to put forth such a productive season, on the box score side, but also on the analytics side. Because if you're kind of putting in a half-based effort, that will show up in terms of analytics. And if him giving this half-based effort is still being one of the best freshman guard prospects that we've ever seen at the college level, I think, that still goes to show a tremendous talent. I don't think he was properly used at Kansas in what you want to see when it comes to an NBA guard. I think he spent too much time off ball to really showcase his capabilities as a ball handler and as potentially a playmaker. And so a lot of it comes to kind of banking on the priors or, the previous outcomes that we've seen as far as his growth through prolific prep. And his high school days in various tournaments where he has looked like just the best player on the court when it comes to, going up against Debonsa, where he put over 60 points on him. And that's where I think, you feel a little bit safer with Boozer there. But I think, what we've seen in the NBA right now with 2 electric guards in Ant and Shea, elevating OKC and Minnesota to new heights. We've seen what a two-way guard impact can do for a franchise. And I think when you look at the overall profile of Peterson, it doesn't have those same kind of concerns that you might have with Boozer, how much he plays under the rim, and how much more bully ball he was forced to play at Duke. Although that's another conversation that I think is to be had, that Boozer was also limited in what he was allowed to do at Duke. But I just believe in, when you have a guard prospect like this, especially two-way guards, because a lot of the stars that we have in the league today at the guard position are more so just one-ended, where they're offensively dynamic, but don't give you much on the defensive end, and you have to cover for them. The fact that Peterson is not going to be one of those people, he's going to be in that tri tier where you don't have to hide him on the defensive end, makes that impact so much greater and the potential upside of him so much higher.
So, Rich, you've been following Peterson since high school prep, and our friendship probably goes for a while. I mean, we've probably been friends since pre-COVID, COVID. Just for people who may not know about you, how long have you been studying NBA prospects in general, and what just draws you to this whole draft process and pre-NBA process?
Yeah, so I would say this really started back in 2014, the first kind of big time draft that was announced to the world. You had Wiggins, Embiid, something that was prophesized as generational, and still, a draft that provided so many great outcomes. The Marcus Smarts, the Julius Randles, and so forth. But it also marked one of my greatest failures as an evaluator, and that was Dante Exum. The guard that everyone was comparing to Penny Hardaway at the time. You kind of only had Australian tape to go off of. And I was like 16 years old back then, so I didn't have access to the tools that I do now. But that was kind of my first big slap in the face. Like, hey, just going off what people compare him to and just what it looks like stylistically may not always be the truth of what is revealed. So the draft has always been fascinating to me, just on the premise that it's kind of like a gamble, essentially. You don't ever know what exactly you're going to get in the fullest picture. But I think the idea of researching with contextual evidence, analytical evidence, and what you're able to see on the tape, it's a fun exercise, and it's a good way to really ingratiate yourself with the next stage of NBA stars that are set to come in. I love being able to, show people guys that I'm super high on, and those guys pan out. Like, obviously Wembanyama was more of an obvious home run, but knowing about him when he was 15 years old and showing it to some of my friends in real life, who had no idea who this kid was, it's fascinating to watch them come back to me now and be like, hey, like, you told us about this guy so long ago.
Yeah, so Rich, so I coach a lot of AAU. We don't really call it AAU anymore, but summer basketball. And I'm sure you're on the EYBL circuit watching games. You're on, all the circuits that are out there right now. How can you talk a little bit about how the differences between watching a kid play in the summer on their club team, on their shoe team, and then watching them play either on prep or in college? Because you mentioned Cam Boozer and Darren Peterson, how neither one of them really got to showcase their true abilities, which maybe they probably did on their EYBL or their summer club teams. Can you talk a little bit about how you have to use those different elements to evaluate what a player might turn out to be?
Yeah, I think with regards to the high school circuit, so much of it has to do with scheduling. Every nationally ranked kid likely has a beautiful stat line to look at. Every kid looks like a future all-star if you just go off their box score stats from what they see in high school. So we use a stat called RSCI, which basically does a good job of filtering it for strength by competition. So, like those EYBL circuits and Pete Jam specifically, like, that's a big time one of indicators, because you see so many of the highest talents of high school, regardless of age level, get to showcase their talents against one another. When it comes to that leap that they make into college, or if they go into like OTE, it becomes a little bit more tricky. On the OTE side, it's more just like you have a bunch of kids that are somewhat ranked and whatnot, and they're competing against each other. It's not as organized per se. It's more so every kid wants to do like a showcase. It's kind of like in the early stages of 2K My Career, where they ask you, you have to separate yourself. It's not necessarily about the team, it's about you. When you go into college, alternatively, it is really more of a team dynamic, a system dynamic. I feel like, when you talk about other sports like football or soccer per se, so much of the discussion revolves around, fit, team chemistry, the systems that they run. We don't really have those conversations as much in basketball, because I think, stars are able to separate themselves no matter what in under most circumstances, the best of the best per se. But when it comes to college, especially at these, big time established programs like a Duke, You have to abide by the code that is set. The coaches there have a lot more overruling instinct in how they're going to use you and what they want you to work on or how they want to improve your game. So that's why I think, like, going back to Cam Boozer, if you look at the high school tape, I think he moves a lot more fluid than we saw at Duke. The idea that he's, this unathletic, power forward, it was kind of dismantled by the NBA combine measurements, which, he looked a lot more athletic when compared to the guys that he's going up against in terms of draft rankings. Um, but I think Duke making him more of a bulkier four kind of led to this image that this guy is just this unathletic, dominant sort of college player that doesn't really translate to the pros. But I think priors, again, you when you evaluate a one and done prospect, you can't just go off 1 year. Sometimes that 1 year will show that they can't hang at that level. But if you implement, every piece of data that we're able to obtain, it gives a more complete picture of, hey, maybe this guy just was being asked to do this specifically versus what he's able to do fully.
So I think with Cam Boozer, we really got to see that, obviously, in the tournament where he kind of took over and started showing his real game. And I think that's why more people are kind of coming along with him. But obviously, you know that it's always going to be contrarians, pundits. But as we get closer to the draft, do you think there is any realistic scenario Cam Boozer goes number 2 and he never even makes it to where Memphis can pick him at 3?
Now, if I was working the draft, then I wouldn't let Cam Boozer fall to 3. I think that's guaranteed. But I think there is something to be said about what media speculation means, in terms of the fact that we've been pushed this idea that number one really comes down to Peterson and Debonsa. And both are exceptional talents, of course, but there's definitely been like I haven't seen really any sort of conversation that would suggest that Boozer's even remotely in top two talks. Now, whether I think that's right or wrong, I don't think it's right. But ultimately, I think if at this stage, if there was more of a push for Boozer being in a top two conversation, I'd be more inclined to buy it. But I'd give it somewhere like a 5 to 10% chance that that actually occurs, barring some like league shaking trade.
Yeah, so that was kind of the conversation. There'd been some little bit of rumor about maybe there was going to be some trade and try to happen to bump up. But by your account, can you talk a little bit about AJ Debonsa? We've talked about Peterson. We've talked about Cam Boozer. What are your thoughts on AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I love AJ Debonsa. I think he came from, BYU, of course. I think he's a little bit more raw than people would like to assume. Obviously the numbers look gaudy. This is an offensive dynamo. He gets to the free throw line very often, which I think is a very good star indicator when you project what his scoring outcome can look like in the league. I think this is very much a guy that could at least average 25 in the league without question, as far as, as long as he avoids injuries or anything else. But I think when you look at the other side, that's where kind of the questions come into play. The defensive questions with Debonsa didn't just start at BYU. This has been something that has kind of followed him through his high school career. It's not that he can't defend. He's 6'9", extremely long. The problem is that the steals and block rates, these are usually good indicators of, how much someone is putting effort through the defense. Now, that's not to say if you average a lot of steals, you're a great defender, or if you average a lot of block, you're a fantastic rim protector. But you want those numbers to be higher for someone that, one, you're making your franchise player. But two, also, this is not like a small guard that we're talking about. You can usually bypass those defensive concerns when an offensive dynamo is, one of these like 6'3", 6'4" type of guards. But when it comes to a jumbo wing that Debonsa perceives to be, you really want that defensive effort to be a little bit higher. Now, I do think that is probably coachable, and I don't think they asked him to take on a lot of defensive responsibility at BYU. But as just an evaluator, it's just something I would have liked to see more of, and I think it's just something that people are brushing off too easily.
Rich, you talked about you saw Wemby all back when he was 15. One more question before we got to get you out of here. Give us one player that nobody's talking about today who could become a household name in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think when you look at the draft now, I think this draft has been so heavily analyzed that, it's hard to say that anyone with that household name potential is truly unknown at this point.
Yeah.
But I have two main guys for you. I have Ibuka Okori from Stanford.
Yes.
I think he's some
Both
guy
our
like
guys.
the hype behind Darius Acuff is well warranted for everything that he's done in his college career. But when you comparatively put him next to Ibuka Okori, I think the statistical profile and really the analytical profile looks a lot better in favor of an Okori. This is a guy that shows a lot more defensive upside than an Acuff, who projects to be a pretty poor defender. And I don't think Okori is going to become some Derek White or Marcus Smart type defender. This is someone I think you'll be able to hide less of while he's still an immaculate shooter from three, from mid-range. He can get to the rim at will. He has the ball in a sliver. And we've seen, plenty of games, even though it's just Stanford University and obviously they don't play that SEC competition. You trust production, I think, no matter what. And this is a guy that was unheralded coming into the year and showcased, that he is well worthy of a first round pick and well worthy of being in that top guard discussion. Secondarily, I think this is like the analytics darling of this draft, be Alan Graves from Santa Clara. I mean,
Told you. Told
if
you.
you just went off the analytical profile, this projects as like a top 10 pick in the draft. And maybe I'm even underselling him. He's got all the makings and all the tendencies of someone that's going to be a dynamic role player for years to come. He is a little bit not in the greatest physical shape as it relates to the NBA, but definitely someone that, if he gets into NBA shape, someone that can exceed his potential, someone that showcases ability on both ends as a good shooter that can stretch the floor as a four, and also, able to create havoc on the defensive end with high steal and block rates. If you're looking for someone that you think maybe can turn into a Walmart Draymond or something of that nature, this could be your guy.
All right, I know we got to let you go, Rich. I will say before we let you go, one thing I really have appreciated during this conversation is your consistency when it comes to the analytics, because I don't think people understand how big of a part analytics plays in the NBA and in college basketball, particularly right now. So, Rich, great job giving us great information today for sure.
Absolutely, my guy. I mean, Rich got me into Okori. Like, he was the one who put me on to Okori and Alan Graves, and then I started doing my own research. So I'm glad we got the man who, behind a lot of my takes, it kind of started right here.
So he's been stealing your takes is what he's telling us, Rich. Appreciate you, big dog.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right, still ahead on the 24th floor. The NBA Finals are finally here. One of our regular contributors correctly predicted this matchup months ago. So just like Ruben, he's going to come in victory lap.
All right, we'll bring him into the conversation and find out what's his latest prediction and who he thinks is going to win it all and which player could end up taking home the Finals MVP. I have my opinions on that as well.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the 24th floor. The NBA Finals are finally here, and it's on our network, ABC 24. Well, the Knicks and Spurs will battle for the Larry O'Brien.
Yeah, first game Wednesday night, obviously. Going to be at San Antonio. And right now, I think the Spurs are like a 54, 58% chance to win right now.
Win game one or win the series?
Win game one. They're just going game at a time.
Yeah, and while most of us spent the season trying to figure out who would get here, one of our regular contributors says he saw this matchup coming all along.
That's right. I mean, I said that, in early April, I would say, and before the playoffs even started, we had a segment, again, on here asking, what teams we thought would come out the East and the West. And I'm not going to say that you guys said I was crazy, but I thought that, the Spurs were a very strong team. Not just Wemby, but if you look at that cast, I mean, with Harper coming off the bench, that team is a very strong team, and they play the game the right way, as you know.
I had the Thunder coming out of the West. I really did. I had the Thunder coming out, and I just thought the Spurs were still too young in playoff experience. That might get the best of them. Plus, you got SGA, who's the MVP, returning MVP. You just felt like that Thunder team had just enough edge to take over San Antonio, but apparently not, because Chet Holmgren doesn't believe in showing up for game
sevens. Oh, come on. Well, yeah.
Call me a liar.
Do we want to give any excuses to the Thunder for Jalen Williams and A.J. Mitchell?
No, you don't need it.
There's two top two guards. That's their two guards.
You lose by a couple of points, and one of your main stars shoots the ball 4 times an entire game, or 2 times an entire game, whatever that number was.
Running for Wemby.
He was running scared. The one time he tried to go score, he fell down on his butt and then passed the ball. He didn't want the smoke. So no, the guys on the bench didn't lose the game for him. The dude playing the game who didn't want to play lost the game.
It's definitely weird to see because they've been there before and they've won. So you don't really see that with teams that have been there and they've won. Chet, 4 points. I mean, this is. Everybody watching this, you look at Twitter, you look at Facebook, Instagram, and all of the kids just saying, they're paying this guy, more than $200 million, almost $300 million.
It's a $300 million contract.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I'm not a Chet fan. I'm not trying to be a Chet apologist.
It should never happen at that level.
I just know that sometimes people played not their best in the bright lights.
Well, listen, if you told me he was 2 for 15 and scored 4 points, I'd say, okay, he just didn't shoot well. He shot the ball 4 times.
Wemby does that.
In an entire game. Wemby didn't play the whole game. Chet was out there when Wemby wasn't out there. He shot the ball 4 times. He's a $300 million dude. You tell me he missed a bunch of shots? Okay, that happens. I agree. But not wanting to get involved, that's a personal thing. He's just scared. He don't want that.
So, I mean, I think the people are happy that we have this finals matchup because the Thunder started becoming hated. Obviously, you have a whole board game called Unethical Hoops, which is like Operation with SGA with the foul bait. And so, I mean, I'm not a fan of either of these teams. I'm not going to make that. I mean, obviously, if the Knicks win, I can say my team took 2 wins off of them. But, I mean, what do y'all think is the biggest storyline headed into this finals? The first time these two teams are meeting at this stage since '99. First time Knicks are at this stage since '99. What's the biggest storyline? Do you think that's what it is?
Wemby's youth is probably the biggest storyline right now. Just him elevating them to this position at this stage in his career.
First playoff.
Yes, becomes a very big storyline if they win. If they lose, the storyline becomes the veteran leadership of the Knicks and the way that they built that team around their style of play.
And the city of New York. I mean, this is going to go crazy. You're going to probably have to call the National Guard for that parade of how it's going to be.
If they win or lose, no matter what.
You got to call them no matter what.
This is a long time coming. I don't like the Knicks. I don't. But like I said on this program, I kind of respect the journey that they've taken to be here because we've all seen where the Knicks were bad. And then I remember watching the Carmelo Anthony days and even going back to the Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell days. Those teams weren't good. The Eddie Curry days, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm happy for them in a way to be at this moment. I can't. I don't know, man. I can't rock with him. I can't be fully happy for him.
To be fair, Latrell did not choke out a Knicks coach.
What, PJ Carlesimo?
Yeah, he did it when he wasn't with the Knicks.
Oh yeah.
But he will choke a coach out. But yeah, you're right. You're talking about from Allen Houston. The glory days, obviously, for us old heads is the Patrick Ewing, John Starks days. Those are the glory days from back in the day with the Knicks.
You said John Starks. Remember, he underperformed when the Knicks had it.
John Starks John Starks was a role player for the Knicks. He was not a superstar.
Wouldn't you say he was like their second best player back then?
Nah, I don't know if I'd say that. John's from Tulsa. I know John Starks. He went to Booker T. I've had several conversations with John. I think John was an amazing player. But to say that his bad performance is the same as Chet Holmgren's is not even close.
Wow.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, has John Starks ever made an All-Star?
I think so. I'd have to look. I mean, I won't
Chet's
speak
a
out
one-time All-Star, so I was like, All-Star, not showing up in the bright lights. It happens. But anyway, get back to your point, Ruben. You mentioned John Starks. I had to say it.
So I was just saying that the Knicks have, you can really appreciate how far they've come. If you're a Knicks fan, you can appreciate how far they've come because of all of the I wouldn't say superstars, but stars that have come through the Knicks who haven't been able to take them to that level. Carmelo Anthony was the last superstar through there. But you've had the Allen Houstons of the world and the John Starks of the world, who were all really good players who still couldn't take them to that level. And so to see him doing it now, I think is really fun for a Knicks fan. If you're a Knicks fan, you got to be excited.
Absolutely. I would say that kind of what Ruben said, seeing Wembanyama at age 22 take this team to the finals, it's definitely a passing of the torch when it comes to what you look at and whose league this is. We were talking about maybe Anthony Edwards or Wembanyama.
Nah, it can't be Ants.
I think at age 22, taking your team to the finals, and if they win,
yeah,
I think that people are looking at this like, wow, like we thought that he would be here, but he's here now. Type
year
of thing.
3.
year 3. He was hurt last year, and this kid is 22, excuse me. And the future of the NBA, OKC, you can kiss that, but people are going to have to make some adjustments. The kid's 22.
Well, the truth is the league will adjust, right? So the league will adjust to him. They'll teams that know they have to face him in the playoffs will get bigger. They'll find defenders to at least create havoc for him in some way, shape, or form. But the league has been looking for a Wemby. Man, they've been searching ever since that era where you had like Steph Curry and all those guys that were kind of that fresh face of the NBA. They didn't get in trouble. They were just getting buckets, and you could have them on cereal commercials. The league hasn't had that since those guys have started to fade away. James Harden was not a guy you could have on commercials all the time, right? Because everybody knows what he does when he leaves the game, right? They know where he goes. But Ant can't be that guy because Ant wants to pay child support and never see his kid, Say like Ant's not that guy. And SGA isn't really that guy for the league because people don't like the flopping and the way he plays.
Yeah.
And so the league has been begging. They were hoping that old boy that's with the Mavericks, number 1 pick last year. They were hoping Cooper Flagg could be that kind of guy, clean cut.
He still can.
But Wemby right now is I think that they're really big because he's so unique. Mm-hmm. You can sell that anywhere.
But the big thing is he's international, which means we still don't have that American guy.
Yeah.
Which is why I say Cooper Flagg could still be that guy because Cooper Flagg, Rookie of the Year.
We're not going to have that American guy for a pretty long time.
Well,
Cooper Flagg is your next closest thing.
Cooper Flagg, yeah.
And in this draft, you're right. You've got so much hype in this draft.
Like what we just talked about, it could be a Boozer, it could be a Peterson, it could be a AJ DeBonsa. But all of those guys want to get to this point where they're playing for a gold ball. So which team do y'all think faces more pressure? The Knicks or the Spurs?
The Knicks.
Yeah, I would say the Knicks as well.
The Spurs are young and dumb and aren't even supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? They got to be playing free. Like, hey, we ain't even supposed to be here yet. Like, they were on a 3-year plan or whatever, and they're ahead of schedule. The Knicks, their clock is ticking a lot faster for the Knicks because the Knicks are older than the Spurs. So the pressure's on the Knicks.
All right, so they're wrapping us quickly. Who do y'all think is going to win this series and how many games?
I would say the Spurs. I would say in 6. I think
Spurs in 6?
I know that we don't have that much time, but I think that the Knicks, they're the real trust the process team. I know that a lot of people look at Philly and they say, wow, Philly, trust the process. Embiid, you never go to the Eastern Conference Finals even. But what we've seen with this Knicks team, time after time again, they've improved a little bit. They fired their coach. And now, obviously, within year 1 with Brown, they're here again. So when it comes to what we expected in terms of the pressure of the fans, I think that New York fans are just happy to be there. I think that Spurs fans are happy to be there. And I think that America's just happy that it's not OKC that's back again, including myself. And I think it's just refreshing because if you look at the play style for both of the teams, Emil and Ruben, we were talking about this earlier, they both play, in the right way, I would say, in terms of defense first, in terms of, creating opportunities and shots for other players and things like that. So.
I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to keep mine tight. I do like the way they play. I like the matchup. I think the Spurs win in 7 because I think the Knicks don't go away. They're not going to just go away. I think they're going to fight to the end.
I echo that point. I got Spurs in 7. The Spurs can drag it out even if they might lose a game. They might lose one of these first 2 games at home, but then as they showed at OKC, they'll get it back, And I think if you get it in Game 7, Wemby with all the marbles on the line, I'm trusting him. I'm obviously it's Wemby's crowning achievement. I got him as my Finals MVP. You got would you say
it'll be Wemby? It'll be the Finals MVP because even though their supporting cast is so good, at the end of the day, he does make the big buckets when they need him the most. He dropped a 3 late in the 4th quarter in that Oklahoma City game that really kind of created some separation.
If Knicks win, who do you got winning?
Brunson, for sure. That's his team. I mean, he took a pay cut for those guys to be on the team. They called them the Nova Boys. Obviously, they made some trades so that whole entire starting 5 is not there. But 4 of them are, and I would say that team, in terms of their chemistry, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but when they lost and they got eliminated last year, they went to the club and they said Finals 2026. They had a bottle service saying Finals 2026, and they're back and they're at the Finals in 2026. So I would just say that all the pressure is on them too when it comes to obviously having that accomplishment of winning the Finals again, and it's a rematch from 1999, the year that I was born, which makes me kind of feel old.
You ain't but 12 years old out here.
But I would say that it's going to be great hoops regardless, and it's going to be on ABC, so we're excited about that.
That's right. Look at him, shameless plug. You can watch the NBA Finals on ABC 24, but we're going to take a quick break here on the 24th floor. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the 24th floor. For many people, sports can provide inspiration during some of life's toughest moments. Our next guest knows that firsthand. Memphis native Marlon Qualls Jr. battled a serious heart condition, later connected with Damar Hamlin through the Abbott Heartmates program, is now sharing his journey in a new book. Marlon joins us now. Marlon, thanks for being here. When people often hear your story, they talk about the heart condition, but for you, where does this journey begin?
Man, thank y'all for having me. And this journey begins back in 2016 when I lost my grandma, my mom's mom, Sharon Boyd. And I was 16 years old, and that was the first person I lost close to me. So I was new to grief, depression. Really, I didn't even know what the word grief meant. I didn't know what depression. I didn't know I didn't even know what the word mental health. So, people asked me how was life before I lost my grandma. I'm like, life was great. But when my grandma passed, a part of me died, and my childhood died.
Yeah.
So losing my grandma, I didn't grieve. 2016 when the family did, I started grieving a year later. Because in my mind, I'm thinking that my grandma would be back 2017. I'm like, grandma need a year break from the family because, grandmas be that go-to person for, when people need a place to stay, food, just everything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, grandma need a break. So when 2017 came, we did a candlelight. I didn't see my grandma, so I'm like, this real grandma not coming back. So that's when grief started for me. And then a couple months after that, 2018, that's when I started having random heart palpitations and shortness of breath and lightheadedness. And I never said nothing about it because I didn't think nothing of it. So one day at school, it got, worse. And, my heart was beating so hard and fast that my shirt was rising. So I got rushed to the hospital, and they did heart ultrasounds and a stress test, and I had 2 nerve blockages on my heart, what they seen on the ultrasound. And in the middle of surgery, which they scheduled June 16, 2018, they found 3 more nerve blockages. And the diagnosis with my heart condition was broken heart syndrome, also called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which weakens part of the heart muscle and it interrupts the way heart pumps blood. And it, they'll mess with your breathing and all of that as well.
So it's funny, well, I won't say it's funny, when you say broken heart syndrome, and I'm looking at your hoodie, and it has blue and white, what I think of when I was a kid, that's what Joe Paterno allegedly died of. I don't know if you know Joe Paterno, I might be a little bit too old. That's a legendary college football coach for Penn State. You know about Penn State, right?
Yeah.
They have a really good college football team. And so, before, obviously, the person who they have now, which they had Franklin, and now the guy they got now, I forgot his name, Joe Paterno was, the coach for, 40 years. So, longer than, both of us, our combined age being, that's how long Joe Paterno was the coach. And when he passed away, I remember they said on ESPN it was broken heart syndrome. So as soon as you said that, that was the first thing that I kind of thought of. But kind of staying in this sports world, a lot of sports fans know the Damar Hamlin story. I remember personally where I was at my last station when the news broke and me having to go immediately on TV and lead the show to talk about it. What you have on your chest right now, the Abbott Heartmates program, you had a chance to connect with him. What did that experience mean to you?
Man, that experience, it means a lot because, his condition, cardiac arrest back in January 2023. Yeah. And he was the reason why I found out about Abbott Heartmates. He's an ambassador of the program. And the Christmas movie that came out last year on Hallmark, The More the Merrier. And Abbott was mentioned, and I'm like, okay, let me look into that, because, with my heart condition, I'm like, I want to be a part of more heart organizations. So I joined a huddle that Abbott did back in February for Heart Month, and, Damar was on there, and I told some of my story, and, with other people with heart conditions, past heart conditions, they told their story, and, it was just like community, to show each other that you're not alone. Some of us similar and some of us different, with our heart conditions, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
Was there anything that he told you that kind of sticks out to you?
Man, from our the draft call when he drafted me, they welcomed me into the Heartmates community with open arms, and it was a bit emotional because when it was time to sign, but he just told what stood out. He was like keep going, and that. Oh, I can't remember everything because I was emotional at the moment. Yeah. But he did, tell me that whenever I need him, he'll phone call away, message away, and we a community now.
Is it safe to say that you kind of softcore root for the Bills? because of DeMar?
Yeah, definitely.
But before that, who would you say was probably your team if you
My
watched?
team, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a bandwagon when it comes to sports.
Oh,
I'm being real. Look. I'm rooting for whoever winning. Like,
Come on, you just like my co-host Ruben.
Look, when I go to the games, look, whoever wins, look, that's who I'm going with.
Oh, nah. So that means you was a Seahawks fan in this most recent NFL. Come on, man.
I'm a bandwagon. They'll be like, who you rooting for? Whoever winning.
And so for basketball, like whoever wins, you'll be like, that was my team.
Basketball, Kobe Bryant.
Oh, that's you ain't even a Grizzlies fan?
Kobe.
Man, you wearing the colors.
Look, I support the Memphis Grizzlies, though. You know, it's our hometown. I support them. I got a couple favorite players on the team. You know, Ja Morant one of them. And, you know, I ain't going to say too much. I don't know about a thing, you know.
So you got the dread colors like Ja. What neighborhood you from here in Memphis?
I'm from Orange Mound.
You from
I was born in Orange Mound,
Okay.
and I was raised in the sub.
Okay, I live
The
in
sub
Orange
off Chevy
Mound.
Drive, yeah.
I live in
Kimball Cabana.
Yeah, I live like right up the street from Bethel Grove Elementary. Yeah. It's my people. All right, man. Let's get back on track. So looking back,
You just put me out
hey
there
man,
like this.
hey, this is a sports show, man. We got it. You know, I had to kind of lighten it up, but
man.
still, kind of getting back. What was the most difficult moment during your entire experience?
Oh, the most difficult moment was, one, my mental health journey. That was first, then the heart condition. And with the heart condition, before the heart condition, I was, grieving so badly to the point where I didn't want to live no more.
Oh, I know.
I had suicidal thoughts, and, I contemplated on it, but 2022, that's when I attempted suicide.
Whoa.
Yeah, I attempted suicide, but during my heart condition, I felt less than a person because I was 18 and a senior, so graduation, prom, and I'm like, I'm 18 and I don't see nobody else. None of my classmates going through this. So I felt less than a person, but around that time, I had to decide, do I really want to die or do I want to live?
Yeah.
And going through that condition, it really made me, appreciate life more.
So during those tough days, what do you think helped you keep moving forward?
My grandma, because my grandma never gave up. And, my family as well, they would support me during that time. I'm like, I can't give up on them because they haven't gave up on me. Yeah. And, my grandma, she never gave up. So I'm like, if I was to give up, I'd be laying my grandma down.
Yeah.
And then God as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for God.
I know that's right. What lessons did you learn about yourself that you don't think you would have learned any other way?
Well, what I can say is I learned my purpose and my calling with life.
Yeah.
And that's to, share my story and, become a stronger advocate for mental health and heart health.
Yeah. Do you look at life differently today
totally
compared
different.
to like before all of this happened?
Totally different. Life is precious, it's short, and I just want to help others. Like in both worlds, the mental health world and, the heart world. To let people know to take care of yourself. It's okay to not be okay, and your mental health can affect your heart health. And just put God first as well.
Yeah.
Put God first because, I lost faith in God, and when I built that strong relationship with God, my situation got better.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? Like ever since you joined Abbott Heartmates, kind of like what is your day-to-day now like?
My day-to-day? Well, since this book get ready to release, I've been having early mornings and long nights, but, I pray every day, start my day with prayer, meditation, journaling, devotional. I put God first before the head of my day, before anything else. And, I eat healthy, no beef, no pork. I work out because, you got to keep that heart, pumping right. And I have boundaries set now. I just put God first, then me. And everything else, God just add to it.
I feel you on the food stuff because my uncle passed away last year to heart failure. I think my grandpa, on my dad's side, he passed away. I think it was a heart situation too. My dad had a heart scare not too long ago. And I remember, I was at my uncle's funeral and I asked my dad, I was like, man, all of these Densons, they keep going to heart stuff. I was like, what should I do? Yeah, and he was like, cut that pork out your life. So I am 30 years old. This is the last year that I am eating pork. I done told my girlfriend, I said, no more pork. And next year, it's the last year I'm eating red meat. You know, so I feel you on
Now,
that
you know
one.
this on this recording that, so stick to your word. Stick to your word.
So how, I mean, when you did the food stuff, how difficult was it? Because, man, I mean, we in Memphis, so you know how that barbecue.
Man, I wanted, look, it wasn't hard for me because I wanted to live. And when my heart
yeah.
doctor told me that, you know, red meat, it causes, you know, risk of heart disease. And I'm like, because he gave me 3 options, a stent, a pacemaker, and a heart surgery. And you know, when anybody hears surgery, you're scared.
Yeah.
And I didn't want neither one of them, but I did the surgery, and I'm like, I got to do what I got to do to take care of my heart because I don't want to die.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's on a pacemaker. So tell us a little bit about this book that you're working on.
Oh, man, this book is called I Was Once Lost, But I Found God. It's about my mental health journey from 16 years old to 25. I'm 26 now. I finished the book last year. And it's picking up from when I lost my grandma and, you know, my hard challenges, you know, mental challenges and, you know, cutting people off, setting boundaries, like my entire mental health journey. And like I put my all into this book. Like it was hard writing it. Like it was some moments I can just write 2 words, you know, break down crime because, you know, I dug into the past. Excuse me. Some things I thought I had, you know, dealt with or got over. It was just I just had a Band-Aid over. But now, you know, last year was my last time, you know, speaking at the event, you know, really in the public eye. So I took 7 months off to, you know, get the book together and also take care of my mental.
Did you ever have any writer's block while writing this? Because I
No.
You didn't?
No. When I tell you, no writer's block. Every day that I wrote, I was just writing because it's like, it's so much that I haven't put out there yet. Like I do advocacy work. You know, I've done interviews, but I don't have enough time to actually share what I want to share. So in this book, I put it all out there. And there's some things that I put in the book that, you know, my mama, daddy, no family member knew that I've dealt with mentally.
Dang.
So it's gonna, like, the book, it's gonna make people mad as well too, because I put I put everything that affected me, everything that, you know, hurt me in any kind of way, I put it in that book because it affected my mental, like my grandma death. I'm talking about that, and that's gonna make some people mad. Like, it's my truth, and in order for me to heal, I have to heal from the past.
Yeah, live your truth. Last question I want to ask you. If somebody is facing their own health battle or personal challenge, what do you hope they take away from your journey?
Take away from my journey is to, 1, put God first. Know that your current destination isn't your final destination. You gotta take care of you. You gotta put you first because, you know, you can have a healthy diet, you can do all this working out, but if your mental isn't right, your health isn't right because mental health is health. And, you know, just, man, never give up.
Yeah.
Because if I would have gave up, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And if anyone going through any health, you know, heart condition, you know, reach out, you know, Abbott.
Yeah.
And Abbott, they're a good organization. You know, they support community. Like it's like one big family at Abbott.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm thankful for Brian, Teddy, and, you know, Ambassador Damar and Teddy for, you know, the support, the love that they, you know, gave, and the other 11 draftees who are part of Heartmates as well.
Yeah. Marlon, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us and sharing your story. Thank you so
thank
much
y'all
for
for
your
having
time.
me.
When we come back, it's time for one of our favorite segments of the week, Best Thing I Saw. We'll each bring something from the sports world, pop culture caught our attention. We'll see if any of us can top the other. Stay with us. All right, it's time for the best thing we saw. Zeke, this is where you made your famous prediction about the finals, but I don't know. I mean, you already had your takes earlier in the show on their finals prediction. Let's just start with you. What was the best thing you saw? And last time you did this, it wasn't really a best thing I saw about Vrabel. It was Ruben shaking his head.
Hopefully you came correct today. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I would say A.J. Brown is a Patriot. Again, I'm from New England, as many people know, and I talk about this like every 5 seconds. But again, you guys were not here, or in New England specifically, for all the speculations when it came to OBJ, when it came to DeAndre Hopkins, or any washed-up receiver coming to New England. So it's just nice to get a receiver in his prime, and especially after this offseason with Jalen Waddle going to the Denver Broncos, and when it came to other moves, including the Buffalo Bills acquiring DJ Moore this offseason for a second-round round pick. We got him for cheaper than what Buffalo gave up, or not Buffalo, excuse me, than what the Broncos gave up, which was a first and a third. We wound up giving a 2028 first rounder and a fifth rounder as well. So it's just nice to obviously have that firepower, considering that, a lot of teams got better. Even the Rams trading for Myles Garrett. This is a very different league than.
How does this help your boy Drake May?
Oh, how does it help? I mean, we have Romeo Doubs. We had Stephon Diggs last year that, again, helped us get to the Super Bowl. They didn't really do anything in that specific game, but it's just really nice to have that reliable target. When it comes to Drake May, obviously, and him being in year 3, and again, with those two skill sets matched up with the deep ball, he was the most efficient thrower of the football when it came to the outer hashes. And A.J. Brown, when it comes to those types of plays, was the most efficient receiver. So pairing those two players together, I think is going to open up the playbook for not just, Drake May or A.J. Brown, but for the whole entire offense, even for the running game. When you have a deep ball threat like that that can just go and get it, I think that it's just dangerous for the league. And I think that you can make an argument that they have a top 5 receiving core now. Again, we were talking about this earlier, with the Cowboys having, again, CeeDee Lamb and, George Pickens.
Yeah.
The Bengals having Jamar Chase and, Higgins.
Higgins is cold.
I wouldn't put them up there, but I would say that you can make an argument they're top 5 now.
No respect for the Rams with Puka and Devontae.
And Garrett now, too.
Well, he plays on the defensive side. So,
you got the MVP.
We talking about offensive side. We talking about wide
best
receiver
offensive
cores.
player, and you got the best defensive player now with the Rams. And then you might have Donald coming back.
Well,
So, Ruben, you a big take guy in predictions, like saying I told you so. Do you think the Pats with A.J. Brown, that they go back to the Super Bowl?
No. I know, and not for any reason other than I think they just got a really good draw last year.
Yeah,
like their path to the Super Bowl was a little easier than most,
Now it
and
gets
so
harder.
they were able to make it even without Drake May playing great football at times during that playoff run. So I think when you get all eyes on you now, right, you got an A.J. Brown, it's like, okay, well we got to be ready. I just think the path gets a little harder, and people will have more film now on Drake May. He's got to continue to improve because the film review is going to be defensively. The NFL is a defensive league, so what it really is a coordinator versus coordinator league. Your offensive coordinator better be good, and your defensive coordinator better be good. Your head coach can suck, to be honest with you, but so coordinators are good, you can play. So that's why. I'm not hating on him. I think it's great for Drake May. It gives him another target. It opens up the offense. All those things you said are correct. But I think the path probably won't be as easy this year, so they're going to have to be better than they were last year.
Yeah, they can't score 13 points.
Yeah, you're not going to beat people in those games.
Ruben, what's your best thing?
Best thing I saw, please roll that beautiful bean footage. Check out your boy, Luke.
What is this edit?
Luke is your father. Y'all might be, was it Star Wars? Luke, I am your father. So this is Luke saying he is your father. Luke Cornett getting up and getting the block. The dude played 6 minutes of the entire game. His middle name is Francis.
I don't like this.
But he chased down that block. And the dude, I think he only played a minute and a half or something like that in the second half. Barely got to play. Came in, gets a big-time block that ends up being a 5-point swing, I believe, because he blocks the layup or the dunk. Then the Spurs go around and turn it into a 3-pointer. So that's a 5-point swing in a critical moment of the game. Oh, boy, should have just got the steal, stopped, and gave it to a guard. Every post player out there, listen to me. If you don't know how to really get to the rack from half court, stop. Stop. Give the ball to a guard. That's what they're there for.
That's what I did.
Give the ball to the guard and let the guard do their job, because it could have turned it into a 4-point game, right? It would have been that much tighter had he got the steal, stopped, gave it to SGA, and they ran some offense. But so hats off to Luke. Best thing I saw.
I don't like him because of what he said about Magic City and got it canceled in Atlanta.
Oh, man, you're going to go there? You would have been in attendance?
Well, no, I would have been here, sadly. All right, let's move on to my best thing. It's something that I saw on social media. You got to appreciate professionals, gentlemen. Like, just listen to this. Adrian Broner, multi-time world champion, kind of let's just say it's not in shape.
It looks like he's the world champion of cheeseburgers right now.
But the fact that he still has that reflexes, he's teaching Dean the Great, a popular streamer nowadays. I mean, Ruben, your kids may know about him, but teaching him kind of his stance. And look at that, how quick he is. And that wasn't even at full speed.
You never lose that though, right?
That's
like
what I'm saying. I
you
would never
lose
get
that.
into an altercation with a boxer.
I ain't never fighting no boxer, bro. Ain't
Like,
not-
look
that's
at this.
not
Look
never
how
happening.
Adrian Broner has had so much alcohol in his system and fats
cheeseburgers,
and sugars.
and
And look
ribs.
at how quick, and that's not even full speed. Imagine if he was for real connected. Good Lord.
It's sad. Hopefully he sees this clip and he locks in because he does have a lot of potential. He still has some time, to.
No, he don't.
You don't
Adrian
think so?
It's a
Broner?
wrap. Yeah, no.
Did you just say Adrian Broner still has some time?
I'm just saying in general, I think that
He
it's
got some
better
time
than
to live.
streaming. I think it's better than him streaming and drinking alcohol every day.
The
I'd
fact
rather
that,
him.
him and Dean the Great streams get big attention. I mean, I
Sure.
think he's fine. Obviously, I do miss. He was one of my favorite boxers. I liked his charisma. I liked his cockiness. I remember his thing with Floyd where he was like, "Water and cornflakes. That's where I come from, the trenches, man. And Floyd, you gonna have to see me."
For sure.
Floyd can't spell trenches. All right, so I don't know if you saw Kevin Hart talking about Adrian Broner. He was like, "Man, you got in the best shape of your life just to do this," because he was so out of shape. He was like, "Yeah, come on, bro, what you doing?" So hopefully Adrian Broner gets back in, because reality here is you still want to be healthy.
Yeah.
Spend all that time, your entire life is in some immaculate shape to be one of the best athletes in the world, and then when you stop hooping, playing football, fighting, whatever it is you do, your body definitely relaxes. So he does. I think some health issues need to get taken care of here too, just so he doesn't get too far off the deep end.
It's crazy he said that when just the other day we were talking about can we still hoop and can we still go?
I can still hoop. a
But I
little
think
bit.
that when you're I don't want to make any allegations, but again, when I've seen some of his streams, and when you're drinking every night and you're going about life in that way, I think that sometimes it can go down a deep spiral where you need to seek some help sometimes. And I just think that after seeing that clip again, I've said allegedly, I don't know the man's business. I've never met the guy.
You don't want to fight him, is what you're saying.
After seeing him, no, he would obviously
want him
put me to
coming
sleep.
for you.
I don't think I'd ever be able to report the way that I would ever again. If
We
he-
wouldn't
if-
have no more Ezekiel
if he even
Telemaco.
touched me, he would definitely, beat my butt, as the kids would say. But I would say that when it comes to
BTA, that's what they say.
Delta, yes, there you go, you said it. But when it comes to his potential in terms of what he's done, I mean, I think it would be better if he made, boxing content, but I don't know if we have that much time left.
Yeah, we got to go. That'll do it for today's episode. Shout out to everyone who made today's show possible, especially Leanna Davis, Andrew Pollard. Big shout out to everyone who chopped it up with us, especially this guy, Ezekiel Telemaco. Ruben, take us home.
All right, everybody, have an absolutely great day. Remember, Spurs in 7. I said it here.
Spurs in 7.